Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to this thematic 2v2 showdown featuring myself and Italian Spartacus taking on Professor Pone and the Gobbo King. As far as the map goes, we're going to be on the dead city of the Salt Plain, which is actually a bit of a choke point battle. So as you guys can see, there is a choke point here and there's a massive city in the background area, but unfortunately, man, like how cool would it be? You could actually like deploy your forces up inside that temple right there and the Empire had like march up the stairs. But regardless, your only really option for deployment is going to be this area. So you can see the Tomb Kings, Professor Pone, and the Gobbo King have taken refuge here at the choke point, going to try and hold us off with a massive horde of bone giants. I think in total there's 4 of those bad boys, which is going to be pretty bananas. On top of that, it looks like the Gobbo King, I believe he's the one with the Vanguard. He does have a couple groups of these skeleton horsemen archers out here in the Eyes of the Desert. So I definitely think that's a pretty cool army composition here, because the Eyes of the Desert do have stock, so we can't see them right now. We had no idea they were there. And these guys have anti-large, they have armor piercing, so they're going to be okay against any cav we might send out there. So he could potentially bait us out with the skeleton horsemen, then take us out with the Eyes of the Desert. So very cool stuff. In the meantime, the Bone Giants and the rest of the forces of the Tomb Kings are going to be advancing outside of the city gates here. Well, not really any gates, there's kind of just like an entryway here. But regardless, the Bone Giants trampling some terrain there. That's actually kind of cool. He just like crushed that giant pot. But the Bone Giants are going to be shooting in, hopefully able to take out the Empire artillery. As far as the army for myself and Italian Spartacus, Spartacus is going to be leading the frontline charge here with some flagellants. So a bit of a crusade. He has Volkmar the Grim as well. And I think the Tattersouls are amongst the infantry. They're definitely going to have a pretty rough fight cut out for them. It looks like there's some Tomb Guard, Skeleton Warriors, Kepler Guard, a lot of Tomb King stuff over there. In the secondary line, I do have the Sterling's Revenge as well as some greatswords, it looks like. So yeah, I think I have the Silver Bullet somewhere else on the map. But Sterling's Revenge, some greatswords, and I do have a Lifecaster as well who's going to be supporting Volkmar and his Bright Wizard. In the back here, it looks like Italian Spartacus, I think, has 2 groups of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So these guys are so awesome against a lot of the Tomb King's infantry. They hit incredibly hard with the charge bonus of 78 against lightly armored troops. Of course, they do lack AP, but against Tomb Kings, their most like heavily armored infantry is like 50. And they do fire damage, so there are a number of units on the Tomb King's roster, including most of their lords. I think all of their lords are actually weak to fire. So the fire damage could come into effect. For my lord, I do have the mighty Karl Franz. He's here with Galmaraz to kind of smack some skeletons. Hopefully that anti-large bonus from Galmaraz will help against the Bone Giants. And we have a massive artillery line, so expecting constructs and Bone Giants to be defending this glorious city. We did bring a lot of artillery. So in total, I think I have 3 cannons, one of them being the Hammer of the Witches. Italian Spartacus has a cannon as well as the Sunmaker, which is dropping some hot fire on the Chosen of the Gods over there, I think, or I'm not sure. It's shooting in there somewhere. But over here, there's a massive vanguard coming in from the Gobbo King and the Tomb Kings, and I'm going to be riding to meet them with the Empire Knights and the Reichsguard. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So I also do have a couple groups of Pistoliers. I forgot to point out the Pistoliers are going to be kind of zooming out there to intercept. Unfortunately, they're going to be taking some damage from the Skeleton Archers, so at this point, I think I actually pull back because it's not really an effective trade. The Skeleton Horsemen, I think, have a little bit better range, so let's see, range 80 compared to 140, so they certainly do. As such, I'm going to be sending out my Empire Knights as well as my Reichsguard to try and hunt these guys down, and I believe they all have shields. I know Empire Knights who have shields and 110 armor, and the Reichsguard with their 120 armor, they're actually able to catch these guys. Skeleton Horsemen only have 76 speed, and the Reichsguard do have 66, but I try and head them off with the Empire Knights. The Skeleton Horsemen, unfortunately, are able to kind of turn the bend, and I do get a couple kills, but I didn't quite corral them like I wanted to. In the meantime, the Eyes of the Desert have made themselves apparent to our forces, and they have advanced, so it's going to get a little bit messy over here. The Emperor Karl Franz has come over with Galmaraz, and hopefully the combined forces of the Empire can smash out these forces without taking too many losses, because we're still committing a lot. In the front, the battle is underway, so the Imperial Crusade has arrived. The Flagellants are fighting. It looks like the Bone Giant is even getting in there and scooping up some of these guys. And it looks like, yeah, the Sunmaker's dropping some fire, but again, it's not going to be as effective now that we're in, infantry combat here with the Tomb Kings. But in the back, I suppose there are some targets. But the Flagellants, they're putting up a good fight, and they're not going to break. So they're going to buy time for our troops in the back. And of course, Volkmar and his pimp wagon to get in there. But you can see the Bone Giants are unleashing hell and a burning skull going down from Italian Spartacus, potentially going to do massive damage. So let's go ahead and take a look, as that skull does come in there and roast a ton of those skeleton spearmen. Very good stuff. On that same note, I do get an Earthblood off here on the Flagellants, trying to keep them sturdy, and they are getting through the skeleton spearmen. And Volkmar the Grim is now coming in on his pimp chariot. He's going to be riding through these guys and doing some pretty huge damage. Granted, even though it looks okay, I don't think we're going to be able to win in sustained combat here in the front line. And you can see the Hellstorm rocket battery is raining fire on the Chosen of the Gods as well as the Skeleton Archers. And it did get a buff relatively recently to its armor piercing, so it actually can do some damage to such targets. My cannons, the Hammer of the Witches, as well as the regular cannons, are just trying to focus down this Bone Giant. You can see the cannonball actually bouncing off the Bone Giant right there. Very well played from Professor Pone and Gobbo King parking Necrotechs there to kind of buff them up. And it looks like there's some Overwatch fire coming from Skeleton Archers here in the back, just shooting into the Flagellants, so it's a very, very messy fight so far. Volkmar the Grim, it looks like he's in a bit of a duelist situation with the High Queen Khalida, who has taken up arms to defend the city. The Necro check here, unfortunately, they're able to goon my caster really fast. They went from being somewhat full health there to just getting taken out. And that's largely due, in fact, to the Bone Giant. So the Bone Giants just sniped it out really, really quick. So the Knights of the Blazing Sun, as well as I think it's just two new groups of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, are going to be charging in to intercept those Giants. On the far side, we do have a bit of a fight on our hands. I have advanced out the Silver Bullets. We're going to be providing some Overwatch fire, helping to take out some of those Eyes of the Desert. Karl, Franz, and his Empire Knights definitely have a very tough fight on their hands, as all of these guys do, of course, have anti-large. We're going to be taking some losses, but regardless, Karl Franz should be able to lead his men here and put these guys out of their misery. So you can see the Eyes of the Desert are crumbling to that withering gunfire. And the Silver Bullets definitely, I'm very happy about that engagement. Looks like a couple Skeleton Archers have escaped, but I did take some losses. One group of Pistoliers did come back, but the other one got basically eviscerated by those Skeleton Archers, as well as the Eyes of the Desert. So it was a bloody fight over here, but Karl Franz successfully leading his mini campaign over here to take out those skirmish units. So now that we've secured our flanks, you can see everything here for the most part is in relatively good shape. Those guns are going to be able to take out the Skeleton Archers, and our cannons are still firing. It looks like one of the Hammer of the Witch's crews was just brutally massacred by the Ushapti Great Bows as well. Well, not the crew, but the cannons themselves were massacred by the Ushapti Great Bows and the Bone Giants. So the cannons, and the Sunmaker is also out of ammunition, but we still do have about 3 cannons online. You can see the cannon fires coming in, and just, I love how it actually like bounces off the Bone Giants, and that kind of like staggers them sometimes. It's really cool. Yeah, a lot of our frontline forces are kind of buckling. You can see there's like 4 Flagellants fighting here, so definitely very valiant warriors of Sigmar here. They're going to be holding to the bitter end and taking Overwatch fire from the skeletons with their no armor. Definitely very brave, and I'm pretty proud of how they did. But like I said, the frontline engagement looking a little bit tough. It looks like the Tomb Kings may have repelled us from the city. 15 Flagellants here. Italian Spartacus's forces are holding on. His Knights of the Blazing Sun intercepting this Necrotect on a chariot. But with the Bone Giant fire coming in, the Bone Giants just like turn, and whatever they face and shoot, whether that be my caster or any of the supporting units, man, they just get taken out so incredibly quickly. So you can see the Sphinx of Usek here is going to be hunting down Volkmar the Grim. Volkmar, before he does retreat here, gets off a massive banishment on the Kepler Guard and does some really good damage. So extremely well played there by mighty Italian Spartacus, but he's going to have to flee. You can see Volkmar the Grim is being chased by the Sphinx, and the Emperor Karl Franz is not going to let Volkmar go quietly into the good night. But something I didn't notice is that Professor Pone and Gobbo King, they must have called an order amongst their ranks to just snipe out Volkmar, or not Volkmar, but Karl Franz. So all of the Bone Giants are going to be shooting at Karl here, which is going to be tough because this is already a hard fight. So you can see that Volkmar as well as the Emperor are teaming up to try and take out this unholy heretical threat here. Karl Franz is being blasted into the Shadow Realm by those Bone Giants, taking massive damage, and the Sphinx comes down with a huge cleaving attack. You can see Deathclaw trying to dodge that, and he does kind of riposte there, coming in with an attack, but we're getting some okay damage in. But there is a Dejav's Incantation of the Cursed Blades, as well as Neru's Incantation of Protection. Yeah, so for the physical resist there. And in the meantime, it's looking pretty grim. Karl Franz is taking a lot of damage. Stirland's Revenge providing some fire as well. And realizing we're taking so much damage here, the Empire Knights and the Reichsguard, who were able to secure the flank on the far side, are going to be charging in and trying to help out. You can see these Empire Knights are just fighting desperately against this Bone Giant, but their armor piercing and combat stats are so low, they're probably not going to be able to do a whole lot of damage. Granted, it is crumbling, which is nice, and it is losing in combat, so it's going to hurt its leadership. And yeah, you can see the cannon fire continuing to just pour in there. In the meantime, the Reichsguard are having to fall back, taking a massive amount of fire from the Great Bows, as well as these Skeleton Archers in the back. So both of our infantry corps have been taken out. Karl Franz had to retreat. He actually got shattered from that fire he was taking. And the Bone Giant's continuing to shoot Karl Franz. Thankfully, he does dodge that one. That one's a direct hit. He's at 135 HP, and the Emperor's trying to fall back. Volkmar still fighting valiantly against the Sphinx. Definitely not a fun fight for either of them, and it looks like Karl is going to be fleeing off the battlefield. Sunmaker's out of ammunition. It looks like there have been some Ushapti summons in the back, so the Spearmen have been called forth to do their duty to Sigmar. And they're going to be fighting tooth and nail to take out these summoned Ushapti. And honestly, these guys are doing one of the most important things in the game right now. If these cannons go offline and stay offline, granted it looks like this one was destroyed in the first place, so maybe they should have summoned over there. But if we do lose our cannons, we're not going to have answers for all these constructs. So the Spearmen trying to hold these guys back. You can see the Ushapti just pushing through them, making their way over to the next cannon, but these Spearmen will certainly be greeting them. Same thing's happening over here. The Ushapti are pushing forward. It looks like they were able to pressure the Silver Bullets, who are going to be retreating. The Spearmen coming in to intercept, as well as the Greatswords, and it looks like they're going to be able to take out the last of these constructs. Some fire coming in. I think that is from Grand Hierophant Katep in the back, who has joined Khalida in the defense of the city. He's dropping some of his hot beats here. And it looks like Volkmar the Grim is taking a beating from the Sphinx, so definitely tough stuff. The leadership for the Empire getting a little bit tattered as Karl Franz has retreated. As far as the Tomb Kings go, it looks like Grand Hierophant Katep is alive. I believe Khalida was taken out by some cannon fire and Overwatch fire there. So good stuff, but yeah, Volkmar the Grim popping all of his buffs to stay alive. Thankfully, he is unbreakable, so at least he's going to stay and kind of hold in position. And this is a valiant effort, because if this Sphinx were able to get back here, it could be really rough. But you can see my silver bullets are still online. They're going to be pouring some heavy fire here. Pretty much having full models. It looks like 57 out of 68. Cannon fire shooting in there as well. And it looks like there's a couple pistoliers who are skirmishing with the Chosen of the Gods over here. Rallying group of Reichsguard. Hopefully we'll be able to intercept those guys. And look at the Sphinx here. It is skidding so low. It has about 1200 HP. Gunfire is just kind of waiting in there. Volkmar the Grim thankfully does have really good magic resist, and if I'm not mistaken, the Bone Giants actually do magic damage with their missiles. Therefore, Volkmar is going to be taking like 60 or 70% reduction. But here comes the Sphinx pushing in here with 300 HP. The Greatsword's just terrified at the sight of this archaic war beast. And you can see that the Silver Bolts, unfortunately, are going to have to retreat. So some of the Spearmen, the brave Sons of Sigmar, are going to rush in the fourth quarter here, and they're going to be intercepting the Chosen of the Gods and this War Sphinx, and they're going to allow time for the missiles in the back, the Silver Bullets, to turn around and get some very heavy fire. You can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun also coming in with a huge charge right on top of those Chosen of the Gods, and down goes the Sphinx. The Sons of Sigmar are able to take it down. Not without a cost there. You can see some of them do get splattered as it falls, which is unfortunate. Chosen of the Gods are getting worn down a little bit now. The Reichsguard with the rear charge, giving them a massive -14 penalty to their leadership as these Spearmen do advance forward. It looks like these guys are going to fall, and Volkmar the Grim rallying, pushing back into his troops to keep them fighting with his Benediction and his other buffs. And the balance of power is still pretty damn even. There's a couple Bone Giants left. They're both out of ammunition. So the Bone Giants now marching out from the city. They've kind of secured their gate, and they have to go stop these Imperial Crusaders. They are taking some cannon shots as they do advance. This great cannon's online. Over here, it looks like this group of Reichsguard are going to be trying to slow down the Kepler Guard, and it looks like the Sunmaker crew is actually fighting them and holding them back. The Reichsguard with a huge charge there. Hopefully that will help crumble them, because the Sunmaker crew is definitely very outmatched fighting these ancient elite warriors. So the Reichsguard are going to be falling back, preparing for another cycle charge. The Kepler Guard do have the Narrows Incantation right here, and it looks like this Lich Priest is still kind of shambling through the desert, covering the advance of the Bone Giants, who, yeah, look at that. You see the cannonballs actually knock off them. It's so cool, and they actually get staggered sometimes. So the Bone Giant getting staggered, taking some pretty huge damage, has about 3,800 HP. The balance of power for the first time through the leadership of Volkmar the Grim and these Spearmen, as well as the cannons which have gotten back online, it actually is in favor of the Empire. So the Spearmen are going to be bracing here, just holding formation, because again, they do have charge defense against large. And here comes the Bone Giant just wading into these troops here. They're just gonna take it basically. They're just kind of standing. Their charge defense definitely going to help mitigate the charge bonus, although it's probably pretty terrible here. It's still 20, so that's something that's helpful. Foz protection is going down as well on the Bone Giant. It looks like from the Lich Priest. And also there's going to be some Vortex abilities, I think, going on here. It looks like there might be something from Katef. Thankfully, the Vortex is avoided by the Spearmen, and now they're just engaged with the Bone Giant. In the back, some of these Reichsguard were able to finish off most of the Kepler Guard with their charge, and now they're just going to swarm the Lich Priest, as well as Grand Hierophant Katep, trying to shut down the supporting units in the secondary line. So this Bone Giant is advancing. The Silver Bullets have a little bit of ammunition left, hopefully enough to bring down the Giants as they are pushing forward, trying to get to the missiles. You can see the Spearmen are just kind of, so a couple of them are scurrying, but it looks like they're coming in and prison shanking the Giant from behind. And it looks like the Bone Giant is going to fall to the Spearmen. So man, these Empire Spearmen just MVPs this game against these constructs, and Mushapti just holding valiantly in the back line, really allowing these cannons and other troops to do some heavy lifting. So these Spearmen are now swarming the other Bone Giant. The thing about Bone Giants is they have relatively low melee defense. It looks like Enkil's Canopy, giving it 66% magic resist, is going to be going down, which, with the Hammer of the Witches, if we still have one online, I don't think we do. We have a great cannon, we have another great cannon, and yeah, both of the Hammer of the Witches were taken out by Bone Giant and Mushapti fire. So the Spearmen are going to be engaging the last of the Tomb Guard here. The Kepler Guard will put up a bit of a fight, but again, just sheer numbers. I think the Empire State troops here are going to be able to finish those bad boys off. Volkmar the Grim coming in on his war wagon, just blasting Sabaton as he is taking out Grand Hierophant Katep and his stupid DJ, dubstep, whatever he listens to. Definitely the metal music is going to win out today. So that looks to be it, guys. Grand Hierophant Katep is taken out by Volkmar the Grim, banishing his dubstep and EDM back to the Shadow Realm where it belongs. And the Grand Crusade is successful. The last Bone Giant is going to be falling to the Spearmen. And now for the army breakdown, you guys can certainly see that though Volkmar the Grim only got 48 kills, he still did a pretty good job. He was able to kind of stem the tide of the advancing Tomb Kings. Once we did lose that frontline engagement and our Flagellants eventually buckled and our Knights of the Blazing Sun got picked off by some of those very elite Tomb Kings troops, he was able to hold back the Sphinx in conjunction with Karl Franz. Although Karl Franz certainly didn't last too long. Karl got taken out by like 3 or 4 Bone Giants and Focus Fire. So that was a little bit tough. But Volkmar, I think, has like 40 or 50% magic resist plus 15 missile. So the Bone Giants do, of course, do magic damage with their last cannon shots. So Volkmar is a little bit more durable. He was able to hold off the Sphinx, which bought time for our cannons and pretty much, all of our other artillery pieces and the Silver Bullets to really wear down those advancing Tomb King's troops. which is definitely a very cool cinematic. Like seeing Volkmar being like the only thing with a couple of groups of spearmen holding off the inexorable tide. The other troops, I mean, the Flagellants did okay. They got a decent amount of kills. They're mostly fighting like skeleton spearmen and stuff like that. So it wasn't like they were fighting elite troops per se. So their kills are a little bit kind of inflated there, but still, they did a good job. I mean, honestly, they were fighting uphill. They were taking overwatch fire from skeletons with their naked hairy chest showing in the the desert sun there. And yeah, it was a little bit tough. Knights of the Blazing Sun got taken out by the Sphinx and the Bone Giants. It was tough for a lot of like the bigger targets, like Karl, Franz, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, all of those guys. They had a pretty rough run with the quad Bone Giants. Hammer of the Witches did okay damage initially, but I think Professor Pone and the Gobbo King were able to focus them down with all of those Bone Giants, so they didn't really get the chance they deserved to shine. So that was tough, but still, something had to go. On top of that, though, I did have a couple cannons, so I had the 2 cannons, and I think Italian Spartacus had 1. So in total, we basically had like 4 great cannons. I think his was Hammer of the Witches too. So we had a lot of like anti-large stopping power. It was a little tough for Karl, like I said, as well as the Jade Wizard, and that was really tough. I think Karl might have been able to survive if the Jade Wizard had lived and not gotten gooned out by Kalita, Queen Lita, I almost called her. Because, yeah, it was tough. And it was really sloppy leaving the Wizard that close up to the frontline engagement. Had it kept him back, got some good regrowths on Karl in a timely manner, maybe he could have lived, which would have been better. Knights of the Blazing Sun and Reiksguard did their job. They were able to attack some of those troops out on the flanks, and really without them, we would have struggled against those skeleton horsemen and the Eyes of the Desert. But, in Karl's defense, he did do a really good job against those. And on top of that, Kalita, something else I want to say is Kalita does give really good buffs. So Gobbo King definitely had a really cool idea, bringing Kalita and stacking it on top of 4 Bone Giants, because she gives a lot of augmentations to missile units. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know there's some damage and other factors there. But as far as Professor Pone's army, he did have the Sphinx, which was an absolute terror in the night. The inexorable beast that kept advancing, and definitely wasn't there to play around. It took Karl, Franz, Volkmar, and a lot of cannon fire to bring that thing down. And it was able to shred a lot of our knights when the initial engagement. I think that's what happened to the Knights of the Blazing Sun. But the Sphinx is always welcome. And honestly, I thought that constructs wouldn't last that long considering we had like 4 or 5 cannons. But man, they were really, really sturdy. It's kind of cool because you could see like the cannonballs bouncing off those guys. That was a really fun kind of interactive thing to see there. As far as the rest of the army goes, I mean, Katap with his DJ beats was pretty neat. I mean, he did some decent work, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more thematic battles. We're actually going to be having a Lizardman. We had a Lizardman versus Skaven game. It was a 2v2, which is going to be going up in the next couple days. So yeah, that one was really fun. And we've been exploring a lot of these custom maps, like the minor settlement battles, I believe. And there's some cool terrain. Granted, they're not really like settlements, but they still have some really cool interactions and fun stuff to play around. So thanks again for watching, guys. If there's any other themed battles you would like to see aside from Lizardman's Skaven, which I'll be putting out in the next couple days, let me know in the comment section below. And we will see you guys next time. Take care.